to tell us about yourself. Tell us why you have done this, why you became a doctor, why you, how you discovered these alternative solutions, and what.
Okay. I'd love to discuss that. So I've had the essential tremor. Why don't I ask everybody, if you can, to go ahead and mute, and then we'll unmute after my little introduction, and then we can take questions. That way, maybe we can get some of that background noise out of there. So I was diagnosed with essential tremor when I was 14 years old. I remember my mom, I started noticing my tremor, and other people started noticing it. And I remember I was at tennis practice one day, and my mom came and drug me out of tennis practice and took me to the doctor. And I was diagnosed with essential tremor and placed on propranolol. I took the medicine for a little while and didn't really like it. So I stopped the medicine and just kind of decided, well, I'm just going to live with this thing, right? I was told, you've got this. At that time, I was told it was benign essential tremor and that it would probably get a little bit worse, that I had it because my dad had it. And I just needed to, learn how to live with it. And so that's kind of what I did for a long time. In college, I fell in love with the sciences and medicine. I got interested in medicine as a young kid and decided to go to medical school. And the school that I wanted to go to was a military school in Maryland. And I applied and I got in. I was so excited. And one of the tests, one of the things that they have you do right before you enroll in school is go through a physical. And so I did the physical and they saw my hands were shaking. They said, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, it's just this benign essential tremor." And the school said, "No, you can't come here because you've got tremor." So I got kicked out of that program because of my tremor. And I ended up going to a different medical school. And while I was in medical school, I fell in love with OB. I love delivering babies. And taking care of moms and those little babies. And so I applied to OB residency and got in, went to OB residency in Arizona. And halfway through my first year, my residency director said, "Hey, you've got a little bit of a shaky hand. What's that all about?" And he said, "I want you to go see a neurologist." So I went and saw the neurologist. The neurologist said, "You've got benign essential tremor, and it may get worse." And my residency director said, "You know what? You can't do this." And he kicked me out of residency because of my tremor. And so I decided to switch to family medicine, where I could still deliver babies. And so that's what I did. I went into family medicine and moved to Southern Arizona and practiced family medicine for years there. And what I found about 10, 12 years into my career, I got sick, burned out, depressed, fat, and when I started looking for solutions to my health, I found that alternative and integrative medicine really, really helped me more than the medicine that I had learned in medical school and residency. And I thought, man alive, I need to give this to my patients. So I went and got recertified and retrained in integrative medicine and functional medicine. And through the years, I had taken propranolol to kind of help me with my tremor so that I could practice medicine and do those things. But over the years, I found that propranolol, primidone, some of the other medicines just didn't sit well with me. I didn't like the side effects. So I started looking in the alternative medicine world for solutions to my tremor. I went to different kinds of providers, acupuncture, lots of different things, and no one really had an answer for me. And by this time, I had left my family medicine practice to start an integrative and functional medicine practice. And about the time that COVID hit, my practice just totally died when COVID hit. And I was at a point with my tremor that I noticed my tremor was, getting worse, like most of us do. And I wasn't finding good answers. And this may sound funny to some of you or foreign to some of you, but I believe in God, and I have had patients that have experienced miracles. I've witnessed that in my patients. And so I thought, well, maybe I need to seek a miracle for my tremor. And I started to meditate and pray and really search my soul about this question. And really the answer that I got from God was that if I heal your tremor, then you won't figure out how to help other people with tremor. And I took that as a calling for me to figure out what other things could be done for essential tremor besides medicine and surgery. We've got medical solutions that work a lot of the times, but sometimes those side effects aren't fun. We do have some surgical solutions, but they're not always a great solution. And so I started digging into the medical literature and really researching, what were the causes of essential tremor and what was the baseline etiology or root causes of these, and what were some of the things that maybe we could do to help tremor without using drugs and surgery. And so that's what I have spent the last 2 years really digging deep into and searching. And what I've really come up with is I've developed an online program that I take people through, and we teach them different strategies of things that they can do to help their tremor. And in my research, what I really found was that there's 3 problems about tremor that we really don't get taught by our physicians all of the time. And those problems are, number one, is that essential tremor is not benign. Essential tremor is actually a brain problem, and it's caused by degeneration of the brain. So there's brain tissue that's dying or decaying over time that causes the tremor and makes it worse. And that degeneration can sometimes be associated with other problems like balance problems, memory problems, other problems with our brain, difficulty with sleep, difficulty finding words. And so when I discovered that essential tremor was not benign, but a neurodegenerative disease, and that it's what I realized is that when we have essential tremor, that our brains are actually in danger of other brain problems. And so that really raised a red flag for me. And so one of the approaches in our program is really helping people learn how to take care of their brain, to slow down that degeneration that's happening in our brains. The other thing that we discovered, in doing this research is that essential tremor really has this emotional, social aspect to it. And I call it tremor trauma. If just looking at my own story, I got kicked out of medical school, kicked out of residency because of my tremor. And what that caused me to do was to try and hide my tremor, right? So I tried to hide it, and I tried to avoid social situations where my tremor might be, more evident and more out in the open. And what I found is that I wasn't alone, that a lot of us with essential tremor tend to isolate ourselves and we hide. And when we socially isolate ourselves, that actually contributes to the downslide of our brains. Our brains need social interaction. And when we're hiding, we're not helping our brains. And so the other aspect of our tremor program is really helping with that whole helping the nervous system around tremor trauma and helping to reframe our mindset around tremor and around what the possibilities are for us in life. And then the third thing that we found is that tremor really leads to disability for a lot of us. I've had to change my medical career multiple times because of my tremor. And many of us sometimes have to quit our careers because of our tremor. So the other part of our training course is we help people to learn how to train their brain so that they can do more with their tremor, to actually help their tremor do a little better, or to help it so it doesn't get worse as fast. So that's really kind of my story. You can kind of learn more about me at our website. It's www.shakefree.org. And I'll type it in the chat for you guys. But I'll just stop there and open it up to questions that you guys might have for me.
All right, anybody? Do you have a question? Okay. Oh, Diana. Whoa.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay. I am very interested in your program and very interested in what you've had to say. But I have a question about, I have glaucoma, and I have read that glaucoma is associated with other brain diseases. And I'm wondering if you found that in your research.
So I have not found a direct link to glaucoma and tremor, but we can, glaucoma can be the result of oxidative stress and inflammation. And certainly oxidative stress and inflammation contribute to neurodegeneration. So they could be linked in that, the baseline inflammation and oxidative stress might be contributing to both things, but I have not found in my research where essential tremor and glaucoma have been significantly linked.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really good question.
Go ahead, Laura.
Well, one of my problems is memory.
Yeah.
My memory loss is really getting worse. I've been attributing it to age. The beginning of January, I turned 90. Thank you. I've had essential tremor, misdiagnosed a few times since 1990. Right now, it's my hands, my chin, my tongue. Swallowing is a problem. Balance is good. I walk without a cane, without a walker. I walk about a mile a day just to get the exercise. But the memory is horrible. What's being done? And if there's a study, could I be part of it?
So it's definitely been shown that essential tremor is associated with cognitive problems or difficulties. And so loss of memory, loss of executive function, so like our abilities to think or do math, things like that, have been associated with essential tremor. And there is association with Alzheimer's disease. And there's ongoing studies with this, not necessarily for solutions for it, but ongoing studies to really ask questions why and how tight is that link between essential tremor and memory loss or other cognitive problems. So what I have found is that memory loss is a neurodegenerative process. So is essential tremor. And so if we can learn about neurodegeneration and what's causing that and learn how to slow it down, then we potentially can slow down the memory loss and slow down the progression of the tremor. So that's really kind of the theory behind my whole program is instead of waiting 20 years to do lots of different studies, let's take all the knowledge that we have right now and start applying it and really learn how to treat our brains kindly and really learn how to restore function to our brains and to our bodies so that we can slow down this process. I would say that I don't ever like to blame memory loss to age, okay? I don't think we should have to expect our memory to decline with time. We do know that there are 90-year-olds that function cognitively very, very well. And if there's a book written by Dr. Bredesen called The End of Alzheimer's, that's a really, really great book that talks about things that we can do to protect our brains. Simple things like you're walking every day is a great thing to do for your brain. But the kinds of foods that we eat, all these different things are really, really important. But to, address your comment, it's not uncommon for us with essential tremor to start to experience memory problems and other brain problems. And if you're experiencing those, I would say raise a red flag, because that's a little danger sign for us that we need to rescue your brain. We need to really take care of your brain and try to restore health to it.
How do I do that?
So continue to walk. Other things you can do is stay away from sugar. Stay away from other inflammatory foods and toxins. And we go, we dive deeply into all of this in our program, but that Dr. Bredesen's book would be a really good resource for you.
Could you put that in the chat?
Yes, we will get that. We will get all this information, Laura.
Okay. Thanks, Diann. Thanks, Drew.
You bet.
Anybody else? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Thea, and I've dealt with essential tremors. Starting off, my story sounds very similar to yours, with propranolol, and probably 40 years ago. And my dad had it, so I inherited it from him and his mother. And so gradually over time, I finished my teaching career. And I would say within the last year or so, I've noticed speeding up. It's switched from one side to the other. I used to be able to eat with my left hand, and that helped because I'm right-handed. And I learned how to do that. And now it's in both hands. And it is getting harder to go out and sit with friends and not be embarrassed. So I'm very, very glad you said that, how important it is not to isolate. That was a message to me, to make sure I don't make that choice. The other thing that I want to ask you about is, in all of those years, I've seen neurologists and movement specialists, and not one of them ever talked to me about, and I would say to them, my legs feel so weak, and my balance is not good. I've fallen several times. It was on a Facebook support group that I started to hear people share about falling. And so I asked the question, and little by little, I found out that, yes, that is, can be a side effect. And so I just bought a walking stick. I don't use a cane or a walker. It's not that bad, but it's heading that way. I just walked yesterday for the first time with my walking stick, because I figured that the one thing I have control over is getting my legs as strong as I can get them. And I don't have internal tremors, at least I don't feel that. And yet my legs are not strong enough that if I do start to fall, I can protect myself. So I wanted to ask you if that is, I wrote down, even though I'm having a lot of trouble writing these days, which so many of these losses are so emotional. I mean, I was a school teacher, and now I can't write a birthday card to somebody. So, it's a very emotional disease. And hearing your words, thank you so much for being here today, because I don't know anybody who has it but me. And so it's very helpful. If you have anything to say about the weakness of the legs, and I will definitely work on my brain and to do the best I can with that. But any comments that you have about that, and will I find something about that on your website?
So So the weakness in the legs, there aren't any studies that I've found that document that that's, always associated with tremor or commonly associated with tremor. But it is well documented that balance can be an issue. And all of us, as we grow older, we tend to lose muscle mass, right? And so that loss of muscle mass can be or may be part of the weakness that you've been noticing in your legs. There are some studies that show that the stronger our muscles are, the better our tremor does. So one of the things that we can do to help us overall is to strengthen our muscles. If you're feeling like you're unsteady or weak, getting into physical therapy or into a good training program to actually help build strength and maintain muscle mass in the long run is going to be helpful for the tremor and the brain. So I think you're doing the right thing by getting out and walking, and we need to learn how to talk more about our tremors so that we feel comfortable going out with our friends and just letting them know, hey, I've got this brain disorder that makes my hand shake. It's called essential tremor. And so you may notice my hand shaking, or I may even ask you to help me with something. And if we can actually start talking about it, one, we'll feel more comfortable being out in public, but we'll also raise awareness so that people are more aware of that. And that's, a big thing that Diann is helping us with, is raise awareness and having a community where we can come and share our difficulties, our challenges, and our triumphs. So it's great what Diann's been able to do with this foundation.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
I have a question. This is concerning ET with my wife.
You
sitting-
are, do
Can
you
you
have
hear
your
me?
phone on? Or,
No.
okay. All right, let's try again.
All right. Yes, she has ET, and I get an echo.
Yeah, you got an
But the-
echo.
Yeah, the question to the doctor and any other the neurologist that you were working with, have they used or tried the Cala device on any of the patients? Say on one hand, and it's non-invasive, and are you familiar with it? And it allows you to be able to eat, allows you to be able to write when you have the device on your arm or your wrist. Are you familiar with it, doctor?
Yes, I'm familiar with it, and I've read all the studies on it, and I've talked with the company about it, and I think it's a really good solution for some patients. I think it's kind of like the medicines for essential tremor are kind of like Band-Aids, right? They kind of help the tremor, but they don't really help the underlying cause of the tremor. No. I think the Cala Trio device is maybe what I would call a Band-Aid plus. And the reason why I like that technology is that it's actually doing something to stimulate the brain. So it stimulates the nerves down here in the wrist, and that sends a message to the brain to try and slow down the tremor. And so I think that that's actually a nice thing. The only bad thing about it is when you stop using it, the tremor comes back with time. So it only works for a little while. But I definitely think it's worth trying if it makes sense with your budget. I found that a lot of my patients, their insurance doesn't cover it, and they have a hard time paying the monthly fee for it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's definitely worth trying, and can be helpful.
Now, it would have to be recommended by your doctor, right? He would have to evaluate you first and be able to aid you in getting one. Is that the case?
Yeah. It's really easy for your doctor to get signed up with the company, and then the doctor just needs to prescribe it. And I think there's like a little measurement that needs to be done to make sure you get the device that fits you the right way. So it's not hard to get. It's easy to prescribe from a doctor's point of view, and so you should be able to you could even ask your primary care doctor if they're willing to sign up with the company and prescribe it, or your neurologist for sure should be able to do that for you.
Right. And I was just wondering why, since it's pretty essential, why is it that the insurance companies wouldn't write off on this, would not aid you in getting something like this?
That's a good question for the insurance companies. They do a lot of things that don't make sense.
That's it. Yeah. And essential tremor has not been known enough and out there for the insurance company to do things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a sad situation. And it's like what we're doing right now. I wish, and I know Drew does too, that we could have done this at least 20 years ago and got all this out there and, pushed forward in what we were wanting to do. So any other questions?
Stephen, you have a question?
Hi, Doctor. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Diann, for putting this together. And thank you, Doctor, for your research and all you do.
Absolutely.
And like many, I've had this condition. I was diagnosed back in 2001, and it's been a long journey. Perseverance and just not giving up is very important, and keeping a positive attitude and having a sense of humor about it helps.
Yes.
I was on propranolol for many, many years. And then my doctor at the time later was concerned about the impact on my heart rate. So he switched me to Primadone. And last year, a neurologist I was with added gabapentin as well. And those two seem, even the propranolol, they all work fairly well. Ironically, I just returned from my current neurologist, who has been the best neurologist I've found so far. I've gone through about 5 or 6 neurologists, and these two, it's a husband and wife, and they're very, very good. And last year she had me get an MRI, and she diagnosed. I always thought I had essential tremors in both my hands and my head because I had head tremors. And she said, no, you've got dystonia in the head. And she did an MRI, and I had arthritis and a herniated disc. And I just got back from her because, I've been waiting for this since November because they couldn't get the serum or the saline solution, but I just had Botox injections. And I already am feeling a benefit from that. My tremor in my head is starting to lessen. And he said it will take about 10 days to really feel the impact of it. And it is a short-term solution, but just driving home, I'm a singer. I've sang my whole life, and it's been very frustrating the last couple of years because the head tremor has led to, such a bad vibrato that it's been hard for me to sing, with my choirs and everything. And, I was coming home and driving, and I was singing to the music on the radio. And it was just great for the first time in years to really be able to sing, and feel, without a vibrato and everything. So she's just going through the steps of trying different options for me. And she may eventually, if things, progress, send me to the University of Maryland Tremor Center. And so I'm just going through the steps. It's been a long process, but I have a positive attitude. And, Diann's foundation and having you, here speaking today has been a great resource. And I feel so much better now and hopeful of the future than in the past. So, I'm very, very grateful to both of you. And, looking forward to continue to look for the continued research that's coming down the pike. So thank you very much, both of you.
Yeah. So dystonia is one of the neurological conditions that has been shown to be associated with essential tremor. So it sounds like you've got a really good neurologist, and I tried, the different medicines for years and have currently decided that I don't take medicine anymore. I use other things to try and help my tremor, just because I just did not like the side effects. Personally, I just didn't want to live with the side effects from the medicines. And so that's really what kind of spurred me to try and find different things that we could do to help with tremor. And, there's other things that we can do, but we have to be vigilant and dedicated to our health. We really, really need to take care of our brains. Joe, you have a question.
Yeah, I was diagnosed probably 30 something years ago. And at that point, it was very mild, and gradually it got worse. And several years ago, I got frustrated and began looking at possible surgical solutions. And I went to consultation at the Cleveland Clinic, an evaluation to see if I was eligible for either the MRI guided ultrasound or the DBS. And they said, well, no, because you seem to have Parkinson's. So now I seem to have both. And as I've been continuing to see the neurologist there, they've actually confirmed it. So I'm wondering, from what I'm reading, people are talking about Parkinson's in similar ways, that it may not be a disorder out of nowhere, although people are talking about genetics, but also it's toxins and things like this. So I guess I'm wondering, from your perspective, are there similarities in terms of the way you see essential tremor to Parkinson's?
Yeah, absolutely. And Parkinson's has also been shown in studies to be associated with essential tremor. So the incidence of Parkinson's disease in people with essential tremor is much greater than in the general population. And so we don't really know why, but certainly they're both neurodegenerative processes, right?
Yeah.
They affect different parts of the brain. The Parkinson's disease affects a part of the brain called the substantia nigra, where essential tremor seems to affect the cerebellum. And so my approach to those two conditions is the same, in that we try to slow down neurodegeneration, but it's different because different parts of the brain need different things to function well. But absolutely, I have found in my patients with Parkinson's disease, if we address toxicity, inflammation, oxidative stress, and all of those things, we actually see patients get better. My Parkinson's patients who dedicate themselves to regular, fairly intense exercise do much better, and actually can see improvement in their disease course or progress. So yeah, there's things that you can do outside of medicine to help with Parkinson's as well as with ET, as well as Alzheimer's disease and other neurological problems.
Any other questions?
I have
Go ahead.
again. Yes. Now, with the deep brain stimulation, and is that considered? I know it hones in on one side, say the right arm, and say if you get to the point you have 80% improvement in that one arm, is that a lifetime thing that you receive that benefit? And have you had any instance to follow up on the lesions that it causes? And I was just wondering, is that something you would recommend?
So I think deep brain stimulation really needs to be a personal choice between you and your physician. The nice thing about deep brain stimulation is I have two people that have had deep brain stimulation that have essential tremor that noticed a little bit of benefit at first, but have found the side effects for them were not worth the benefit that they received from the surgery. And so you just need to go into it with open eyes that it can lead to other brain dysfunctions because of where they're stimulating, and they can kind of hone in on the stimulation and try to improve that. Some people get, remarkable results that last a long time. The surgery does not claim to stop it forever. So there does seem to be continued progression of tremor, even with the deep brain stimulation. And I think for me personally, deep brain stimulation is going to be a very, very last resort decision for me to go down that road. But right now I'm able to live with how I'm managing my tremor right now. If I get to the point where I'm really not functioning, doing the things that I'm doing, then deep brain stimulation might be an option that I would consider. But so I think it's really a personal decision that you need to make, with your neurologist, with your primary care providers, with your family. Know what risks there are, what you're getting into, because it isn't a miracle cure for everybody. It does do wonders for a lot of people. But I have seen some patients with significant side effects from it. But I've also had patients that have had really great results. So really kind of the bandwagon that I ride and steer is treating or finding solutions for essential tremor without drugs and surgery. And that's really kind of what I focus on. And so I don't consider myself an expert on deep brain stimulation. I've studied about it a lot, but I'm definitely not an expert on it.
What about the ultrasound procedure, Dave?
So for me and the research that I've done on both of those procedures, I would choose the deep brain stimulation over the ultrasound, because you can always, the deep brain stimulation, they're placing a little wire, a little lead in the brain that gets a little signal and it stimulates that part of the brain. The ultrasound is actually destroying a part of the brain. So if you get a bad result from the ultrasound, that's too bad, because it's done. Once it's done, it's done. The deep brain stimulation, if you get a bad result, you can just turn it off. You can turn off the stimulator. You can even take out the leads if you want to. So I view the deep brain stimulation as a nicer choice, because if you don't get a good result, you can turn off the stimulator, take out the leads if you want to, and you're not stuck with the result. That's my personal, non-expert approach to what I've learned about it.
Right. And has there been enough time to determine whether the lesions that's caused by the ultrasound cause you extensive adverse effects as the years go on?
Well, everybody's different, and over time, the brain many times can overcome problems. It's like when you get a stroke, you damage part of your brain, and some people are able to regain their brain function. And so the same is potentially true with that kind of procedure. If you had a bad result over time, I think there's potential for it to get better. There's also potential for you to be stuck with some of the side effects if you happen to be one of those people that experiences that.
All right, guys, we're coming to an end. And I want to say, of course, thank you, Drew, Dr. Christensen, for joining us and for all your
Absolutely.
information. And I want to everybody, look, if you need more information from Dr. Christensen, please go to www.shakefree.org and you can learn more. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask, you can, message me. That'll be fine. You can message the Facebook group, and you can message Dr. Christensen. So I want to thank everybody for being here and for participating. It's been fun, and it's enlightening to learn and see what everybody had, the questions, and how everybody is living and dealing with essential tremor. So thank you, Dr. Christensen, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been
Okay.
good to be with you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you so much, Diann and Doctor. Take care.
Bye.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.